In 1947, a housewife in Salford could feed a family of 6 on less than 10 shillings a week. She did not have extra virgin olive oil. She did not have a spiralizer. She had dripping, bones, a bag of lentils, and the kind of ingenuity that no cookery school could teach. And the meals she made? Her children remember them as the best food they have ever eaten. Number 18 on this list was built from scraps most people today would bin. But families fought over the last spoonful. And number 7 was so good it showed up at wedding receptions, even though it cost less than a shilling to make. The secret was time, care, and the absolute refusal to waste a single crumb. Hit that subscribe button, because poverty cooking was never poor cooking. It was genius disguised as making do. Let us count down the 25 poverty-era British meals that actually tasted like luxury. Number 25. Bread and butter pudding. Before celebrity chefs rescued it and charged £14 a portion in Soho restaurants, bread and butter pudding was the meal that turned failure into triumph. Stale bread, the kind that had gone hard by Wednesday, was too precious to throw away when a loaf cost 11 pence and fed 4 people for 3 days. Your grandmother sliced those dry crusts thin, buttered both sides if she could spare it, and layered them into a battered enamel dish with handfuls of currants and a generous grating of nutmeg. The custard was simple. 2 eggs, a pint of milk, a spoonful of sugar, whisked together and poured over the bread until every slice sat soaking. Into the oven at gas mark 4, and 40 minutes later, the kitchen smelled like a French patisserie. The top turned golden and crisp, almost caramelized, while underneath the bread had softened into something rich and custardy. Children burned their tongues reaching for the corner pieces where the custard had caught and turned toffee dark. This was poverty food, and it tasted like heaven. Number 24. Pea and ham soup. A single ham bone, bought for pennies or saved from the Sunday joint, could power a family through an entire week. Your mother would drop that bone into the biggest pot she owned, add a pound of dried split peas at about 4p a bag, a couple of onions, and enough water to cover. Then she would leave it. Hours on the back of the range, simmering so gently the surface barely trembled. By evening, the peas had collapsed into a thick, green velvet, and the ham had given up every last thread of meat and every atom of smoky flavor. The soup was so thick, a spoon could stand in it. Miners in Durham carried it in flasks down the pit. Children soaked hunks of bread in it and called it their favorite supper. The bone went back in the next day, topped up with water and more peas, and the whole thing started again. 1 shilling's worth of ingredients fed a family for 3 days. That is not poverty. That is alchemy. Number 23. Corned beef fritters. When the tin of corned beef came out of the cupboard, children knew something good was coming. Not the sad, cold slabs on a plate with pickled beetroot. The fritters. Your Nan would crumble the corned beef into a bowl with mashed potato, a finely chopped onion, and a crack of white pepper. She would shape the mixture into fat rounds, dip them in beaten egg, roll them through breadcrumbs saved from drying crusts on the warming plate, and fry them in dripping until the outside turned deep golden and shatteringly crisp. Inside, the filling stayed hot, soft, and intensely savory. A tin of corned beef cost about 1 shilling in 1955. A bag of potatoes cost 9p. Those fritters fed 5 people, served with brown sauce and a bit of bread, and every plate came back clean. Street markets in the East End sold them wrapped in newspaper. Factory canteens served them on Fridays. The recipe never appeared in any fancy cookbook. It did not need to. Number 22. Scotch broth. This was the soup that built Glasgow. Housewives bought scrag end of mutton, the cheapest cut available, at barely £1 a pound, and simmered it for hours with pearl barley, carrots, turnips, leeks, and dried peas. The barley swelled and thickened the broth until it became almost a stew. That cloudy, golden liquor carried a depth of flavor that took expensive French consommé hours of clarifying to approach. In 1952, the National Food Survey recorded that Scotch broth appeared on tables across Scotland at least twice a week in winter. The pot sat on the range all day, improving with every hour. By evening, the mutton had surrendered its fat and collagen, creating a natural richness that coated the mouth. Children came in from the cold, cheeks raw and fingers numb, to find bowls of broth waiting on the kitchen table. That first spoonful was warmth itself, a meal that cost a few pennies but tasted like someone had spent all day in the kitchen. Because they had. Number 21st, cheese and onion pie. When the meat ration ran out, cheese stepped up. A block of cheddar, about 1 6 for £1/4 pound, could stretch further than any joint. Your grandmother would slice onions thick, soften them slowly in a little dripping until sweet and golden, then layer them with grated cheese in a short-crust pastry case. Some families added a sliced potato for extra body. The pastry was made with lard, not butter, giving it a crumbly, flaky quality that shattered at the first bite. Baked until the top blistered brown and the filling bubbled through the crimped edges, it was served hot with pickled red cabbage. This was the Monday meal that everybody looked forward to. The Women's Institute recipe books listed it under economy dinners, but economy had nothing to do with how it tasted. Rich, savory, deeply satisfying. A pie that could have graced any farmhouse table and made the whole room smell of home. Number 20. Faggots and peas, the Black Country's gift to poverty cooking. Butchers mixed pig's liver, heart, and belly with onions, breadcrumbs, and sage, wrapped the mixture in caul fat, and baked until the kitchen filled with a rich, herbal warmth. A portion cost 6pence and came swimming in thick onion gravy with a mound of mushy peas alongside. Factory workers queued at faggot shops during dinner breaks, standing at the counter with forks and eating straight from the dish. The caul fat melted during cooking, basting the filling and keeping it impossibly moist. The sage cut through the richness. The gravy was dark, glossy, and tasted like it had been simmering for days. Children in Wolverhampton and Dudley grew up believing this was the finest meal in the world. Some of them were not wrong. When supermarkets started selling pale, shrink-wrapped versions in the 1990s, the old guard shook their heads. You cannot wrap tradition in plastic and expect it to taste the same. Number 19. Liver and bacon casserole. Lamb's liver cost a fraction of what a proper joint demanded, about 9pence a pound in 1954. Your nan would slice the liver thin, dust it in seasoned flour, and brown it fast in a smoking hot pan. Rashers of streaky bacon went in next, then sliced onions, a splash of water or stock, and the whole lot was covered and left to braise gently for an hour. The flour thickened the juices into a dark, glossy gravy. The liver turned silky and tender. The bacon gave its salt and smoke to every mouthful. Served over a mountain of creamy mashed potatoes, this was the Tuesday night meal that made children forget they were eating offal. The National Food Survey recorded that liver appeared in nearly half of British households at least once a week through the 1950s. Not because people loved the idea of it, but because the taste was undeniable. First pattern break. Here is where something fascinating happens. The meals on this list share a secret that modern cooking has almost entirely forgotten. Slow rendering. When your grandmother put a tough cut of meat on low heat for hours, she was not just being patient. She was performing chemistry. Collagen in cheap cuts breaks down into gelatin at around 70 degrees Celsius. That gelatin creates body, richness, and a silky mouthfeel that an expensive fillet steak simply cannot match. Food scientists at the University of Leeds confirmed in 2018 that slow-braised shin of beef produces higher levels of umami compounds than prime cuts cooked quickly. Your grandmother did not know the science. She knew the taste. And the taste told her that cheap meat plus time equaled luxury. Every dish from here onwards proves that formula. Number 17. Oxtail stew. The butcher practically gave oxtail away. A whole tail cost 2 shillings in the early 1950s, and most housewives knew exactly what to do with it. Brown the jointed pieces in dripping until they are deeply caramelized. Add onions, carrots, celery, and a bay leaf. Cover with water and simmer for 4 hours until the meat falls from the bone at the touch of a fork. The cooking liquor turns into something magnificent. Dark, glossy, and thick with natural gelatin, it coats the spoon and shimmers in the bowl. Children suck the bones clean. Fathers mop up the last of the gravy with bread. The flavor is deeper and richer than any beef stew made from expensive cuts. Today, oxtail costs more per pound than sirloin, and restaurants charge £18 for what your nan made from bones the butcher could not sell. The irony would make her laugh. Number 16. Bubble and squeak with fried eggs. Mondays meant leftovers, and leftovers meant bubble and squeak. Cold mashed potatoes and cabbage from Sunday's roast were mixed together, seasoned with salt and pepper, and fried in dripping until the bottom formed a thick, crispy crust. The skill was in the patience. Leave it alone. Let the heat do the work. When the underside turned deep golden brown, flip the whole thing like a pancake. Or do not flip it at all. Some families preferred it one-sided, all crunch on the bottom and soft on top. Crown it with a fried egg, the yolk still running, and you had a meal that cost almost nothing but delivered everything. The sizzle of the pan, the smell of crisping potato, the pop of the egg hitting hot fat. This was Monday's answer to Sunday's excess, and half the country preferred it to the roast itself. Number 15. Steak and kidney pudding, not the pie. Your nan lined a pudding basin with suet crust pastry, filled it with chunks of braising steak and ox kidney in thick onion gravy, sealed the top with more pastry, covered it with a cloth, and steamed it for 4 hours. The result was extraordinary. The pastry absorbed the meaty juices, turning soft and almost translucent where it met the filling, while the top stayed firm enough to slice. The steak melted. The kidney added a deep mineral richness that cut through the suet. The gravy inside was dark and concentrated, having had nowhere to escape during those long hours of steam. A whole pudding served 6 and cost less than 3 shillings. It sat in the middle of the table like a monument, and cutting into it released a cloud of steam that smelled like everything good about winter. No restaurant has ever improved on it. Number 14. Welsh rarebit. Not cheese on toast. The difference mattered. Your grandmother would grate strong cheddar, mix it with a splash of ale, a teaspoon of mustard, a dash of Worcestershire sauce, and a knob of butter. She would melt the lot together slowly until it became a smooth, pungent paste. Spread thickly onto toast and brown under the grill until it bubbled and blistered, the edges catching dark while the center stayed molten. This was supper when there was nothing else in the larder. A chunk of cheese, some stale bread, a bottle of brown ale. Total cost, about 6pence. But the flavor was explosive. Sharp, tangy, deeply savory, with that mustard heat lingering at the back of the throat. Families ate it in front of the fire on cold evenings, the smell of toasted cheese filling the room. It appeared at funerals, at suppers after church, at kitchen tables where conversation mattered more than presentation. Rarebit proved that poverty could taste defiant. Number 13. Jam roly-poly with custard. Suet pastry rolled flat, spread thick with bright strawberry jam, rolled up tight like a Swiss roll, and steamed in a cloth for 2 hours. The kitchen filled with sweet steam. The cloth came away to reveal a pale, swollen log, glistening with jam that had leaked through the seams. Sliced thick and served in a pool of bird's custard, hot from the pan. Children would fight over the end pieces where the jam concentrated into sticky pockets. The suet made the pastry dense and filling, a single slice enough to silence the hungriest child. In the 1950s, school dinner registers listed it as a weekly fixture. The entire pudding cost less than £1 to make and served 8. There was nothing refined about it, nothing delicate. It was pure, generous comfort, and it tasted like being looked after. Second pattern break. Here is something the food industry does not want you to think about. Every meal on this list was made from whole ingredients. Flour, suet, bones, vegetables, dripping, no stabilizers, no modified starch, no maltodextrin. The average poverty-era family spent more time cooking, but less money eating. And the food had a depth of flavor that processed convenience meals cannot touch. When Bird's Eye launched frozen fish fingers in 1955, they marketed them as Progress. When Vesta introduced curry in a box in 1961, it was called Modern. But progress came at a cost. We traded flavor for speed and called it improvement. Your grandmother would disagree. Number 12. Tripe and onions. The most divisive dish in Britain, and also one of the cheapest. A pound of tripe cost about 9 pence in 1952. Housewives simmered those pale, honeycombed slabs of cow stomach in milk with onions and white pepper for an hour, until tender. The milk turned into a delicate, savory sauce. The tripe became soft and almost silky, absorbing the flavor of the onions. In Lancashire, this was Saturday dinner. Over 300 tripe shops operated in Greater Manchester during the 1950s. Men ate it with bread and butter, claiming it was the finest supper in the north. Children were less convinced, but those who learned to love it swore nothing else came close. The texture was unique, the flavor gentle and clean. It was the meal that separated the old guard from the new, and for a generation, it was the taste of home. Number 11. Potato and leek soup. 2 ingredients. Barely any cost at all. Your nan would sweat sliced leeks in a little butter, add cubed potatoes and water or stock, and simmer until everything collapsed into a thick, pale soup. Some families pushed it through a sieve for smoothness. Others left it chunky. A pinch of salt, a grind of white pepper, perhaps a splash of milk if the budget allowed. The result was clean, earthy, and deeply comforting. A pot cost maybe 6pence and fed the whole family. During the hardest weeks of winter, when the coal ran low and the wages ran out, potato and leek soup kept body and soul together. Today, vichyssoise sells for £8 a bowl in London restaurants. It is the same soup. Your grandmother just did not give it a French name. Number 10. Toad in the hole. A handful of sausages, maybe 4 or 5 for £1, transformed into a meal for 6 by the simple miracle of Yorkshire pudding batter. Sausages went into a roasting tin with smoking hot dripping. Batter made from flour, eggs, and milk was poured around them, and the tin went into the hottest oven the gas could manage. 25 minutes later, the batter had risen golden and crisp around the sausages, puffed at the edges and soft in the center. Onion gravy was poured from a jug. The sound of that batter crackling as the tin came out of the oven was the sound of Wednesday tea time. Children claimed the corner pieces where the batter met the tin and turned almost biscuit hard. The sausages, held aloft in their golden cradle, tasted twice as good as they did on their own. Batter economics. That is what your grandmother called it. Flour and eggs cost nothing, and they turned a modest sausage supper into a feast. Number 9. Rice pudding. Baked in a low oven for 2 hours, short grain rice, milk, sugar, and a knob of butter became something that no modern dessert has managed to replace. The skin was the prize, that caramelized golden layer that formed on top, slightly chewy, intensely sweet, fought over at every table in Britain. Underneath, the rice turned creamy and thick, each grain softened and swollen with milk. Some mothers added a scrape of nutmeg. Others dropped in a spoonful of jam that bled red through the white. The whole dish cost a few pennies and served 4 generously. In 1955, 7 out of 10 households made rice pudding at least once a week. The enamel dish, browned and seasoned with years of use, sat on the table like an old friend. This was alchemy. Milk, rice, heat and time. Nothing more. Everything needed. Number 8. Shepherd's pie. Monday's leftover lamb from the Sunday roast was minced or chopped fine, mixed with fried onions and leftover gravy, spread into a baking dish and covered with a thick layer of mashed potato. It went into the oven until the top turned crisp and golden, the edges catching brown where the potato met the dish. The filling bubbled through cracks in the mash, filling the kitchen with the smell of roasted meat. This was the meal that proved leftovers could be better than the original. The lamb, having already given its best to the Sunday roast, gave even more on Monday, concentrated and savory, deeply flavored from its second cooking. Children drew patterns in the mashed potato with their forks. Fathers ate in contented silence. The whole thing cost nothing beyond what had already been spent, and it tasted like someone had started from scratch. Number 7. Egg and chips. The meal that sustained a nation. 2 eggs fried in dripping, the whites crisp and lacy at the edges, the yolks still liquid and golden. A mountain of thick-cut chips, cooked twice in beef dripping until the outsides shattered and the insides stayed fluffy. A shake of salt, a splash of vinegar. Bread and butter on the side to mop the yolk from the plate. In 1956, eggs cost about 4 pence each and a bag of potatoes 9 pence. A meal for the whole family for under 2 shillings. But it was not the economy that made egg and chips legendary. It was the taste. Dripping gave the chips a savory depth that vegetable oil could never match. The eggs, fried in the same fat, picked up that beefy richness. This was the meal that dockers ate after a night shift, that children requested for birthdays, that appeared on every cafe menu from Margate to Morecambe. It proved that luxury has nothing to do with price, and everything to do with execution. Your grandmother fried an egg better than any chef on Saturday Kitchen. She just never told anyone. Third pattern break. Notice a pattern? Nearly every dish on this list uses the same fat dripping. Beef dripping, saved from the Sunday roast, strained through muslin, stored in a ceramic pot on the warming plate. That single ingredient transformed everything it touched. Chips fried in dripping taste fundamentally different from chips fried in vegetable oil. The Maillard reaction occurs more efficiently in animal fats because of their higher smoke point and complex fatty acid profile. A study published in 2020 in Food Chemistry confirmed that beef tallow produces significantly more flavor compounds during frying than sunflower oil. Your grandmother's dripping jar was not a relic. It was a flavor engine, and we threw it away because a margarine advert told us to. Number 6. Scouse. Liverpool's signature dish. A stew so central to the city's identity that its people took their name from it. Scouse was the ultimate poverty meal. Cheap cuts of mutton or beef, cubed potatoes, carrots, onions, and whatever else the larder offered, simmered in water for hours until the potatoes broke down and thickened the broth naturally. In the hardest weeks, the meat was left out entirely. They called that blind scouse. No meat, no complaint. Just vegetables, slow cooked until they became something greater than their parts. Families in the terraces around Scotland Road lived on scouse through the 1940s and the 1950s, stretching a few pennies into a meal that kept dockers standing through 12-hour shifts. The taste was earthy, warming, and deeply satisfying, the kind of food that fills you from the inside out. When it came back to the table, steaming and fragrant, nobody called it poverty food. They called it tea. Number 5. Bacon and cabbage with parsley sauce. A collar of bacon, soaked overnight and simmered for 2 hours with a whole cabbage and a few potatoes, produced a meal of startling elegance. The bacon turned tender and pink, the fat rendering into the cooking liquor and flavoring every vegetable in the pot. The cabbage, often maligned, became sweet and succulent, nothing like the sulphurous boiled horror of school dinners. The parsley sauce, a simple white sauce with a generous fistful of chopped fresh parsley, tied the whole plate together. Served sliced, with the vegetables arranged around the joint and the sauce poured from a jug, this looked and tasted like a meal from a country house kitchen. It cost about 2 shillings for the bacon and pennies for the rest. Families in Ireland and across northern England ate it weekly. It was the meal mothers made when they wanted the family to feel prosperous, even when they were not. Number 4. Lancashire hot pot. Layers of sliced potato, onion, and cheap mutton chops, arranged with the care of a mason laying bricks. The top layer of potatoes, overlapping like roof tiles, was dotted with butter or dripping and left to crisp in a moderate oven for 3 hours. Below, the mutton released its fat and collagen, creating a rich stock that soaked upward through every layer. The potatoes on top turned golden and crunchy. The potatoes in the middle became soft and saturated with meaty juices. The mutton fell apart. It was architecture as much as cooking. Every layer mattered. Every slice of potato earned its place. In 1952, a neck of mutton cost 1 8 a pound. The whole dish served 6 for under 3 shillings. Yet when it arrived at the table, that golden crown of potatoes gleaming, it looked like something from a feast. Families across Lancashire claimed their version was the only true recipe. Every one of them was right. Number 3. Suet dumplings in beef stew. The stew alone would have been good. Shin of beef, slowly braised with root vegetables until the meat yielded to a spoon. But the dumplings made it magnificent. Your grandmother mixed self-raising flour with shredded suet, a pinch of salt, and enough cold water to form a soft dough. She shaped them into rough balls, dropped them onto the surface of the simmering stew, covered the pot, and left them for 20 minutes. They swelled, absorbing the beefy broth from below, while the tops steamed fluffy and light. Each dumpling was a world in miniature, crisp where it met the liquid, soft and yielding in the center, saturated with flavor. The combination of slow-braised beef and fresh suet dumplings created a meal that made winter feel generous. The Ministry of Food actively promoted dumplings during rationing as a way to stretch meat further. But nobody ate dumplings out of duty. They ate them because the taste was extraordinary. Number 2. Stewed shin of beef with onions. Shin cost next to nothing because the butcher could not sell it to anyone in a hurry. Tough, sinewy, threaded with connective tissue. Your grandmother bought it because she knew 4 hours on the range would transform it into the most tender beef you have ever tasted. Brown the pieces in dripping, add quartered onions and a splash of water, cover the pot, and forget about it. The collagen melted into gelatin. The fibers relaxed. The onions collapsed into a sweet, dark sauce. By evening, the shin fell apart at the touch of a fork, and the gravy was thick, glossy, and intensely beefy without a single stock cube. Served with mash and bread, this was the meal that made children think their family was wealthy. It cost about 1 shilling and sixpence for the whole pot, and nothing, not fillet steak, not wagyu, not dry-aged ribeye, has more pure beef flavor than shin cooked with nothing but thyme. Number 1. Roast dinner from a cheap cut. The undisputed champion. A shoulder of mutton for 2 shillings. A silver side of beef for 3 shillings. A hand of pork for 1 shilling and 9 pence. The cut did not matter. What mattered was the treatment. Roasted slowly, basted every 30 minutes until the outside turned deep mahogany. Potatoes crisped in the same fat. Parsnips caramelized. Yorkshire pudding rose tall. Gravy made in the tin, scraping up every browned bit, thickened with a dusting of flour. The table was set. The family gathered. And for 1 meal a week, poverty did not exist. Rich and poor ate the same Sunday roast. The only difference was the cut, and the women who cooked the cheapest cuts coaxed the most flavor from them because they had to. That roast tasted like love, patience, and the fierce determination to make life feel abundant, even when it was not. Try one this week. Pick up a shin of beef. Make a pot of pea and ham soup. Fry your chips in dripping. Then tell me in the comments whether your grandmother was right all along.